Hello, welcome to another weekly update. I hope you're doing well. I hope you had a good week, a good weekend. We've been away this weekend, so coming in hot to some of these new items. We're going to discover them as we go together, but that's fine. Yeah, it's kind of been an interesting, quiet sort of week. Things haven't ramped quite as quickly as I thought they would going into September, but there's still a couple of things to talk about. Let's jump right in with kind of an important one for a very specific group of people. And so that is, and we've talked about this a little bit before, Outlook developers building on the old REST APIs, Exchange REST APIs. I know you are out there. I hear from you. And over time, as you well know, but for everybody else, Microsoft have moved some of those functionalities into Microsoft Graph, but they haven't moved all of those functionalities into Microsoft Graph. And around about, well, it was about the beginning of this year, Microsoft, or back end of last year maybe, but around about the beginning of this year, Microsoft decided that they were going to delay decommissioning some of these old Outlook REST APIs. They had previously announced towards the end of, or middle to the end of last year of 2022, they had sort of said, actually, we're going to get rid of these legacy Outlook APIs because we think Graph is a better place to go. And we think everything that you can do in the old APIs is in Graph. Quite a lot of people pushed back on that and said that's not true. And so they delayed the decommissioning, and they did that in January. Anyway, they're back again with another blog post this week to say that they are definitely now going to deprecate the old APIs. They're going to do so at the end of March 2024. Now, let me show you this blog post because there's a few things to go through here. So this is the blog post, and it's kind of summarized what I just said in the first paragraph. And we've got this announcement that they will deprecate the Outlook REST version 2 and beta 8 endpoints on March 31st, 2024. And after that time, everything will get a 404 and for the next 60 days, and then it's just going to be turned off completely. Okay. There's a few things, I don't know. There's a few things to talk about here. So the first thing I want to talk about is, do we take this seriously? Because this was announced once before, and then it was delayed, and then kind of got pushed into the grass, and now it's back again. Do we take this seriously and think that it's actually going to happen, or do we think it's just going to get pushed off again? And that's an interesting one. I actually think I wouldn't discount this. I do think this is probably going to happen, and here's why. Two reasons. First, Microsoft are a lot more cost conscious now than they were a few years ago. They went throughout this year, they've been through that kind of horrible process of having to let staff go and really kind of tighten their belts, and we see this everywhere. We see this in delays, we see this in cut features. Microsoft are operating on a reduced budget right now, and I think this is one of those areas where it costs them money to keep this team going, to look after these APIs, these legacy APIs. It costs them money to keep the endpoints going, and so it's not free just because it's running on Azure or Microsoft's own Azure. It doesn't work like that. Somebody is paying for that, so that's on somebody's budget line, and if they're trying to reduce their budget line, this is an easy thing to cut, right? Because, it's already been announced, it's deprecated, it's old, it's not Graph, they can let it go. So I wouldn't discount this for that first reason. Second reason I wouldn't discount this is because they've already done this once. They announced, and then they heard back from a bunch of customers, and then they sort of delayed. In their head, they feel like they've given customers enough time to move off. And that was like the warning shot. But also, they know now what that feedback is like. They know exactly what the problems are. And so they've either addressed them, or they've decided that the number of customers that came and moaned was not big enough for us to worry about. So I wouldn't discount this. I do think this is going to happen. What's really interesting about this blog post is nothing in this blog post says to me, or they haven't said in this blog post, 100% of the things you can do on the old REST 2.0 APIs, you will be able to do in the new thing. Like, they haven't actually said that. So I don't know. That's kind of a little bit worrisome to me. If I was using the old Outlook REST 2.0 or the beta endpoints, those legacy ones, and there's specific functionality that I can't get out of Graph, I would go and try and talk to the Graph team, raise a bug, like try and get your, through whatever channels you have, go and find out if it is going to go over to Graph. And if it isn't, then I guess you need to kind of plan for what that world looks like if you don't have, if you don't have those things. Hey Sharik, thanks for mentioning in the chat. One of the things I meant to talk about chat actually is I still haven't figured out in chat how to give you the links for the things I'm talking about. So the kind of current plan is that wait for the stream to finish, because it's only going to be short. It's like a 15-20 minute stream every week. So it's not like hours and hours. So it won't be very long. As soon as the stream's finished, I update the description with all the links and everything like that. And then if you want to wait a day or two, like I'll put a blog post out with all the links in as well. So if you're looking for the links for some of these posts, you can get them kind of immediately after, or like a couple of days, whatever is easiest. If you're listening to this on the podcast, your links are all in the description of the show notes. All right. So this is kind of an important one if you use those Outlook APIs. I would take it seriously. I would go and talk to Microsoft if you've got channels to do so, but I would not hold out any great hope that they are definitely necessarily going to honor your particular requests or wishes to move over something that isn't there already, because I just don't think they've got the time, the budget, the inclination to do it right now. All right, let's talk about something more fun anyway. So this is a cool, a cool blog post by someone I've not seen or met, or I don't know anything about, who is, I'm trying to fuck his name. His name is, surely cannot be Azure Preston. That would be amazing. In some way, his name is Preston. So he has a blog post called The Preston Verse, and there's not an awful lot about him on there, but this particular blog post surfaced and came through, I can't remember where it came from, but I saw it and I thought it was kind of cool and interesting. And it's all about using OpenAI, but it's all about figuring out how much OpenAI is going to cost you. And everything in here that he talks about is equally, I think, relevant to Azure OpenAI as well, where it's also kind of a little bit tricky to work out how much you're being charged. And so he's got a pattern for like doing, figuring out your cost by putting like a cost gateway in, which is such a smart idea. When I saw it, I thought actually like this is worth sharing because it's kind of a cool idea. Also he's got good dad jokes. So yes. So goes through the problem that I've just described. But basically, what he's kind of saying is what you can do is use API Management Gateway and use API Management Gateway as the kind of abstraction, if you like, out to OpenAI or Azure OpenAI. And when you do that, you've got policies that you can put in place to check for quotas. So you can kind of rate limit people. And also you can figure out, how much it's going to cost you, because you've got every transaction flowing through API management, going through these policies, both outbound and inbound, that you can do something with in Azure Functions. So that's really smart. It's all completely serverless. It's all relatively straightforward and simple, and it's a great idea. I like this. I think it's pretty cool. You can give users like an actual money limit, or you can just like write it off. I think it's cool. So I would use this if you're using OpenAI stuff and you need to figure out what it's costing you, and or you need to you kind of like need to have some kind of user specific quota in place, IP specific quota in place, day of the week specific quota in place, whatever it is you need. Azure, the API gateway, management gateway can do all of that stuff for you, and so it completely makes sense then to put that in front of OpenAI, which is kind of interesting. I never really thought about it like that. I always thought of API Management Gateway as being a thing that you would put in front of your own APIs to secure them, right? And then put quotaing and rate limiting and that stuff. I never thought about putting it in front of a third-party API in order to kind of track usage. That's so smart. So anyway, go and check out his blog post because it's great. And it's got loads and loads of detail in it, and I think that's a great idea, and I am going to be using this soon for sure. This pattern I think is a great idea. All right, last thing I want to leave you with, I didn't think I was going to have much to talk about, and I'm already 17 minutes in, and these are supposed to be short snippets of updates, and so that's not going very well. Let's talk about the new Microsoft Teams client. So unless you've been living under a rock, you will know that there is a new Microsoft Teams client coming. It's been around in various places for a while. You've been able to turn it on depending on who you are. It's been kind of preview. It still is in preview. But there's a update to the development documentation around the fact that like it's getting really ready. So if it doesn't work for you, you need to shout now because they're readying it. So this is the blog post. I'll put a link in the notes, like I just talked about. If you are not yet using the new Teams client and you've got apps and stuff like that, it is worth, now's the time really to go and make sure that they work okay. So there's some details about it, and you can actually, you can figure out what's going on. You can tell whether you're using the new client or not, and you've got some timelines here. Now, this is interesting because these timelines are probably the most concrete things that we've seen written down around the GA date of the Teams client for a while. So it's currently in public developer preview, so you can get it as a developer. You don't need to be in any special kind of club or anything like that. You can get it and feedback on it. And so this availability of platform features. So all apps are available in the new Teams client. So your app should be available in the new Teams client. All platform features, apart from the ones they've listed below, are now available. And then platform features that are listed below under known issues will be available by September 2023. They don't say where in September, so I would assume like maybe end of September because we're in September now. So I'd maybe wait until the end of the month. But so what they're recommending is that you test everything you have. And so move it over to the new client. And then if you see any problems, then you should kind of do something about it. So one biggie is adaptive card tabs aren't supported in the new type. Not adaptive cards, just adaptive card tabs. So let me just open this so you can see what it is. I'm not sure if there's a good picture of it here. This is where you've got like an entire tab. Yeah, it's not a great example. It was a relatively short-lived experience, and basically instead of putting your content in an iframe, you can just render adaptive cards directly to a tab and do it that way. But anyway, if you're using that, sorry, because they've already cut that out of new Teams. It's not coming to new Teams, and so you're going to have to go and rebuild your stuff in the old way. Yeah, so if you're hearing that for the first time, sorry. I feel like you probably should have heard it already if you're deep into the world of adaptive card tabs, but it sucks if if you just built an adaptive card tab and then you kind of stepped away from the news, you'll have probably missed this until probably around about now. There's a list of things that will be supported soon but aren't. My advice to you is test everything in your app and test everything in your workflow that you do today and test it in new Teams. If you hit things where your app doesn't work properly because it's looking for features or API calls that don't exist or just stuff doesn't work right in new Teams, please let the team know. Raise an issue. There's links in that page that I just shared on how to do that. That way they know about it. If there's a big enough thing that they just haven't thought about that enough people tell them about, that might be enough for them to fix it before it goes out. Or likewise, if you come across features that you were expecting to see in the new Teams that you don't see in the old Teams, let them know. Like if it's not in that list, then they probably don't know about it or they think it's already happened. So if that's not true, do let them know. Raise an issue using the link on that page. All right, that's everything I want to talk about this week. I'm already aware I've spent too long talking, so I will let you go and enjoy the rest of your week. Have a great one, whatever it is you're doing, and I will speak to you again next time.